Listen, there's no such thing as mistakes. There's only happy accidents, according to Bob Ross. But the tea or the drink today here is we're going to be talking about singleness in the church, in quarantine, in life. Because some of y'all are wasting time on people who regularly would not cross the bridge for you.
Well,
period.
Yeah. I mean, singleness is, I think it's a season that I think people and culture, like, frown upon. But I think it's actually, like, a cool thing to actually experience because I guess once you do get married, you don't, and have children and have a family and all that stuff, you don't get that time back.
We were talking about this earlier, and then I said, you know what, I think we should make a YouTube video on this. But anyway, because I was saying, like, when you're single, it's the only time / period in your life where you don't have to answer to anyone. You can do whatever you want.
Spend whenever
you want. Exactly. And not have to worry about, like, the effects that it's going to have on the immediate people around you, aka, like, your spouse, your kids, and whatnot. And I just think that, like, I came from a private Christian college where there was just kind of this unknown pressure to, like, get married right out of school. And that you're, like, but on the other flip that is that, you know, something was kind of wrong with you if you weren't. And that's just a lie that I think, or, like, a pressure that needs to get broken. Because I had no idea where I was going to end up when I graduated. And I was graduating early. And I was not about to try to, like, date or do anything or, like, get into a serious relationship knowing I don't know where I'm going to be, and I don't want to put that pressure on someone else and, like, potentially have to break up with them because I don't know myself.
I think that's also, like, a gender thing. Like, they don't go around asking guys, like, why are you not married? Like, why haven't you had any kids, right? It's like, I think there's this pressure on women that they're only going to be whole and they're only going to be successful based on getting married and having children. And I don't know. I think and that's okay. Like, if you want to be a housewife and want to get married, I'm not saying
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but there shouldn't be anything wrong with you if you choose to go get your education, go to college, travel, do all these other things for yourself. And then figure out what you want to do in life and who you want to be with. I mean, half of the time, like, I don't know, I feel like the grass is always green on the other side. Like, a lot of my friends that got married early, they regret not traveling. They regret not doing stuff in their singleness. Because once you're married, it's like you're not living for yourself anymore. You have to actually consider someone else, you know.
I also think, well, going off of that, I think that I've always said that the grass is greener on the side that you water it. And I think, too, that if, like, traveling is something that they, like, regret not doing, I think that that's a conversation that you should have when you are getting married and, like, what a priority is going to be. Because if you want to travel and you end up with someone who does not want to travel, well, then, like, you're compromising in an area of life, and you might be okay saying, okay, listen, like, maybe this isn't, like, the biggest priority, but I feel like that also comes to play too, and like, asking those questions pre-engagement, pre-marriage, because I feel like there's a lot of conversations that Christians are scared to have with that, but should be,
like, it's not the end game is not to get married.
Yeah.
The end game, that's actually just the beginning of a lot of stuff. Like, it's another journey, right, that you're going through. So it's not like you have, I think, important conversations of, like, what do you find important in life? What are your values?
Yeah.
What are the things that that you're passionate about, and not that you have have to have the same exact interests, but the same values. Like, I think when you marry someone, it should be someone that is going to be your equal and encourage you,
Yeah.
and not make you feel less than, but actually will actually bring out more of Christ in you and who you are, and vice versa. So like if traveling is important to you and you're like, well, it's not that big deal, I'm just glad I'm in love and getting married. And I'm like, that actually ends up being a big deal later on, because if you have to make compromises with values that you find important, things that you like to do,
Yeah.
then okay, maybe that person doesn't want to travel, but if they're willing to do it because you enjoy it, that's different, right?
I mean, I just think that, I'm repping Australia right now as we talk about this, because I lived with Australians in college, mate, and they always said that if the world is a book, why would you ever just want to live on one page? And I feel like when you explore and when you travel, you just grow overall as an individual, because you get to experience different cultures.
Yeah. So it's like making the most of your singleness season, because it's a season. And I think one of the biggest lies with people, especially women, thinking that, oh, like, God doesn't want me to get married. God doesn't like, why, this is why it hasn't happened yet. Like, I'm like, it's never going to happen. I'm like, there would like wanting to get married and wanting a spouse is actually a holy desire. So like, God wouldn't put a desire in your heart unless he was willing to fulfill it.
Yeah.
So trusting that God's going to fulfill that, and not trying to make it work on your own, and being like, you know what, actually, this is the best time for me to actually get to know myself and be my best friend, as well as like God, knowing him, and it's like you, me, and him. Because at the end of the day, even when you're in a marriage, like, there's people that are in marriages that are lonely, that haven't figured that out because they haven't set the priorities straight. So now is the time to actually do that. Being single, and if you rely on God's promise and God's fulfillment of that desire, you get to actually enjoy your singleness. You're like, it's gonna come. Like, I don't have to. It's like watching a movie, a romantic comedy or a romantic movie, already knowing the ending. So you already know the ending. So it's kind of like fun to kind of watch it play out.
Yeah, I feel like also too, as understanding that, one, God's timing is perfect, and that everything happens according to his time, and just not like trying to rush things. And I think too that, especially because right now we're both currently living in New York City, is that we live in a city where the emphasis isn't on the family, the emphasis is on career, like your career. It's on like building your wealth, building your success, networking. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there are people who are very passionate about the companies that they work at, and you have to ask yourself, okay, like, do I want to be married to someone who's married to the work or no? And I have friends who want to just live simple lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I have friends that are very successful and career oriented in what they do, and there's nothing wrong with that either. And it's just like not comparing yourselves to other people, because people want different things out of life, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I think that like beauty, success, and all that stuff is actually subjective.
Yeah.
And I think what you view as success is different what I view for
exactly.
Success, right? I did. I think it was an actor that said this. Like, people always ask you, like, are you married? Do you have a good paying job, a career, a child? All these things, like a grocery list. But very few people actually ask you if you're happy.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's important to be happy now. Mm-hmm. Because it's not based on someone or something.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that's a huge thing too. Is like whoever you end up dating, I've always just kind of had the notion that people aren't meant to make your life. People aren't meant to like fill that hole. Like, that hole is meant to be filled by God and to be filled by Jesus. But people are meant to add to your life.
Like an asset.
Exactly.
Not a liability.
And I think that when you have that mentality, it takes off a lot of pressure on the other people, because like I'm not depending on you for my happiness and my fulfillment. Like I already have that in God. But the fact that you add to my life, that you bring beauty to my life, and you bring joy to my life, I think says a lot more. And I would rather be with someone who wants me not because they need me in your life, but because they're like, you add so much to this that this
you
is
want,
like,
yeah, I want
exactly
them to be a part of your life, you know. That's a big difference. I think that breaks the whole issue of codependency with healthy relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's dating, or even like with yourself. I think it says in the Bible, like, love others as you love yourself. Like, people forget that the prerequisite to loving others is loving yourself. So if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna I'm cursing. How the heck are you gonna love?
I curse on here all the time.
How the heck are you gonna love someone else? Which RuPaul says that every time. I love her.
Exactly.
You have to love yourself, I think, and that will set the course for you.
All right. So
we were talking about loving yourself, like you loving yourself being a prerequisite for loving others. And I think, like, if you don't know how to love yourself, you can't love others well. And then if you do love yourself in a healthy way, then you're able to not be codependent on someone else for your happiness.
And pour into others and uplift other people.
Yeah. And the thing is, I learned in school, in Bible school, it's called interdependency. So it's learning when to be independent and when to depend on other people. Like finding that fine line, you know, which I think is super important. It's knowing, like, what you can do on your own and, you know, being accountable to yourself, but also knowing when, you know, you reach out to community and you reach out to your friends and stuff like that. But I don't think we talk enough about healthy relationships and what that means, whether it's friendships or like romantic relationships or with the relationship you have with yourself. I actually had my clients write a letter to themselves.
So that's good.
Just because they forget that they are a person as well.
Yeah.
So I think the relationship with yourself is actually really important, especially in this time of singleness where you have that time to focus on yourself. And a lot of times, you know, there's times where like, oh, we've been single for forever. Like, I'm over it. I've been working on myself for a whole year. Like, but you said before, like, timing is everything. And
yeah,
I don't want to be like Esau, that like was so hungry and so for food that
so
he like
thirsty
that he blew his birthright for some stew.
Good things will come. I always say, don't let worldly people put a price on your heavenly value. Don't negatively say things about yourself either. And I always say that the things that you might not like about yourself are usually the things that God has created you to be unique. And it hurts God's feelings when you say bad things about yourself. Remember that.
It's also, you're made in his image.
Exactly.
So it's like saying, hey, God, like what you made, even though you died for me on a cross, wasn't worth it. It wasn't
exactly
enough. Yeah. And I think it's so funny because I think we don't realize that, like, God made us individually, like a piece of art, like a mosaic of all these different types of things, and he did that on purpose, and he did that with time and like care, that there's no one that, like, it's just like our DNA. There's no one that can replicate your DNA. Like, you're unique, and there's a reason for that, because what you're meant to do in this time of singleness, in this time of whatever your life journey takes you, is only for you. So instead of being like, well, this person's not single, so I'm like, they're much better in a better place than me, or they're better than me, or they're prettier than me. And it's like, these are lies that we tell ourselves, because that's not the truth at all. Like, we don't have to reach a certain level of perfection, a certain level of beauty for us to find, you know, or us to encounter someone that like loves us. Like Ruth freaking, she lost everything. She lost her husband, she lost her culture, and in that midst of that is where the kinsman redeemer Boaz came and brought him to her. So it's like, we don't have to achieve this level of, I don't know, success on your own, or like for God to bless you with someone. And I think that's important, to not compare yourself to others in this time of singleness as well.
Also, don't settle.
No.
God did not create you to settle. If you were created in man's image, not in man's image. If you were created in God's image. Closing remarks of this video. Love yourself. Remember you're worthy. Are we going to waste our singleness?
No.
Are we going to spend our time on people who are a waste of time?
No.
Do not settle, and don't waste your time on people even if you're in quarantine and you're feeling lonely. Listen, I know that some of y'all mofos are thirsty and are willing to hop on anything that has a stick between their legs. Please don't. You ain't got time for that.
Don't be hopping. What is it? Jay-Z's like hopping on a bus stop. I don't know, something about a bus.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny, but not really. It kind of messed it up. Yeah, just I don't compare your journey to anyone else's, and there's nothing wrong with you if you're single. If you're working on yourself and living your best life, like
some of us are just more worthy and godly than others, so I'm gonna sip my tea on that one.
But drinking our beer.
Peace, love, blessings, y'all. Remember that you got this. Bye.